So, Detroit, Michigan, TMD Talks, here with a very dear friend, coach, mentor, just amazing human being. Ben Newman is a speaker, author, high-end performance coach to some of the most elite humans in the world. Ben, thanks so much for being together with us today.
I appreciate it, man. It's so great to be here.
Thanks so much. So
I love that you left it at that. Sometimes you keep going my intro. I'm like, man, this is not about me. This is about everybody that's with us right now, right? So I appreciate it. Short, sweet, let's roll.
I'm super enthusiastic about you. That's all that is. So listen, one of the things I've enjoyed the most as we become closer is really hearing you talk about where the inspiration to pivot from being a very successful financial advisor to a professional speaker, author, and high-end performance coach came from. Can you tell us that story?
Yeah, so first off, let me say, I think for all of us, we all have something we were destined to do. And I think a lot of times when people have the opportunity to connect, to hear podcasts, things of that nature, it's almost like I need to make an immediate pivot, right? So like when I share this, like if it excites you that like, oh, I need to be doing something else, recognize wherever you are right now, it's part of your story. I mean, I was brokering paper when I graduated from Michigan State University in Chicago when I graduated. Did I think we'd be sitting here? Or would I have been a financial advisor for 10 years and now doing the work that I do? No, but that was part of my story. It helped me become who I am. So I was blessed to be part of a great organization, a Fortune 100 financial firm, and I had great mentors, great coaches, which I've always had in my life. And I was able to get off to a fast start. And a lot of it was my personal story, right? It was my mom, it was her passions. She passed away 11 days before my 8th birthday from a rare muscle disease. So like for me, it was, if I'm helping people with financial advice and insurance, like I'm living proof of that story. So I just ran, right? It was like, how many times can I rewrite this story that my mother had written for my brother and I? Like literally $100,000 of term insurance put me through college. And so you get off to this fast start, and then people, as you know, you've had some great notoriety as well in the industry. You get invited to speak, and the next thing you know, it's like, holy cow, I'm speaking all the time. And then somebody's like, hey, you want to coach me? And I'm like, I've never coached anybody, but let's give it a roll. And so, I'm hired to speak in 2006, then hired to coach somebody in 2008. And, here we are. It's been 13 years building that practice. And around 2012, it's when, God really started saying, hey, you're going through this door. And I tried to not control it. I tried to learn wherever I was in my life, and all of it, everything I've learned, the mentors, the coaches, all of the experiences, I think help us. But I think for all of us, it's remembering no matter where you are in your story right now, there's something you're learning right where you are, even if it's not what you're going to finish doing, that's going to cause you to be the best that you can be in your life.
And I really appreciate you sharing that. Something you mentioned that, Israel mentioned recently when we did our TMD talk with Israel Adonijay was around mentoring, and you mentioned it as well. As you know, the first core principle and belief of TMD is a mindset of abundance. I've often found that the mentors in my life have had that. They've had that mindset of abundance and that desire to do great things on behalf of others. Talk to me a little bit about maybe one of your most meaningful mentoring relationships, not necessarily who it was, but what does that relationship look like? And tell me how you apply that forward in the relationships you have today.
Yeah, so I would say, first let me mention, I've had a paid coach since I was 25 years old, right? I believe, so that's 15 years of having a paid coach. We grow up, we play sports, we have coaches, you listen to the coach helps you see spots that maybe you can't see in your performance. And so having that coach to break down that game film of your life was always important in sports, and I utilized it in business, and it's been massively impactful. So there have been great coaches, but I'll share with you my high school basketball coach, which is kind of a cool story. Here's a guy who my work in sports was because of him. So here his name is Todd Basler, and my high school basketball coach is the one who took this guy who could shoot, but slower than any get out, couldn't jump, right? Thought I was way better than I actually was. Imagine that as a high school punk, right?
Yeah.
And was blessed to play on a team with 3 D1 guys, but like he taught us about mindset. Like you'd walk in, there were quotes everywhere in the locker room, right? And now it's like, that's what taught me like the importance of motivation and quotes, and we can control our minds. And I look back on it, he's one of the greatest relationships I've ever had in my life. He's still in my life today. This guy coached me over 22 years ago. He's a character in books that I write. When he retired, we took this awesome trip together to go to a Redskins-Eagles game. You know, it's just like, it's the relationships that matter the most, and it's the people who give it to you real. And so if there's anything I can say, whether it's your old high school basketball coach or your current coach, make sure that the feedback is real. It's not just, hey, this is the way we go about coaching, and I'm going to ask you some questions. No, we got to engage. We got to go deep. Like, I need to cut you in the heart sometimes to make sure that, like, you're still bleeding, right? And to make sure, like, how's your heart ticking? What's going on? And if those relationships aren't real, you got to move on to another one. But I've been really blessed to have those coaches and mentors in my life. It's literally helped me become the man I am today.
You know, you made me think of, in talking about, you said Coach Basler?
Well, it's Coach Basler, and then there was Coach Johnson. So the two of them are Todd Edwards in books that I write. So if anybody's read the books, so literally Todd Edwards is Todd Basler and Edward Johnson. So when you write fables, you can make up the names and have fun with it.
So you made me think of a good friend of mine, Scott Muska, and he always says, no one is smarter than all of us. And it's not just about the intelligence that he's speaking to when he says that, and when we're kind of just brainstorming or mind mapping how to create progress in the business that we're in, but it's really about the fact that together with others, we elevate the standard, we elevate our performance, and we create greater outcomes. Talk to me about how you decide the type of people that you surround yourself with and the type of people that you are willing to invest your time and talent and resources in.
So I believe in an iron sharpens iron mentality, right? So you reach a point where are the people that you're engaging with, it's not just because I'm a coach doesn't mean that like I shouldn't be learning from you. Like I want to learn, like what's working for Manny? Like what can I learn in how you spend time with your children? Like, you know, what exposure you give them to sports or like I want to learn about everything, right? So that we can grow together. And those types of, I will say, enriching relationships, that's what it's all about. And I think you reach a point where if you choose to work hard enough, and that's the key, if you choose to work hard enough, you get to choose who you work with. So it's been a blessing that our team, it's not me alone, we've had a great team that's worked tremendously hard to be able to spend time with the people we want to spend time with. So whether it's a team or whether it's with Manny, like I want to enjoy our time together. If we're not enjoying our time together, then you should be firing me and we shouldn't be working together.
Yeah,
and
like
so
this morning when you made me work out with him.
He's going to turn back into a beast. Everybody, you got to go check out his Instagram account. Go look at the football picture, DePaul University. The dude's an animal.
1,000 reps followed by a 3-minute plank that I've never done in my life.
Yeah, and you did it.
And we did it, that's right.
But you know, the key is we can all push ourselves beyond what we think is possible, but it takes that individual to be there with you on that journey, right? Just like in anything, we either stop or we continue to push. And typically when you win that game of your mind and you give just a little bit extra, it's not, I think a lot of people go, oh, give extra, man. You want me to work like a 36-hour workday and 20? I'm like, no, like maybe just tweak a couple things. Like, you know, but people, that's where your fears, your doubts, your uncertainties come in. But when you win the game of your mind and you give just a little bit extra, like I shared it's kind of interesting you bring it up, but at the end of the workout, when we were on our last set of going through on the weights, I said to you, hey, I'm not going to tell you what the finisher is. So you're probably thinking, oh my God, what is this guy going to do to me? And we get down, and when we said 3-minute plank, you were probably like, oh my God, like, how are we going to do that? But you mentally battled through and did it, right? And then that shows up in other areas of your life. And I think we got to make sure that we don't give up on ourselves, you know? We push.
Yeah, that's, yes. So, and look, I enjoyed the opportunity to not just continue, you know, these great dialogues that we have, but to do something meaningful together like that, like invest in our physical health and presence. Tell me a little bit about that, though, because multiple times in our relationship, you've talked to me about, hey, what would it be like if you really got back in the gym consistently, if you returned back to what you were like 10 years ago, which was somebody who was very disciplined around investing in my physical health and presence. Tell me a little bit about why you have found that so important, and how has that contributed to your success today in serving your clients?
Well, first off, let me share, I think we have a great benefit here is that we're not in the same room with everybody, right? So in fairness to everybody watching, like the nods of the head, like if we share anything that causes you to reflect, like that's a good thing.
Yes.
So I don't have relationships with everybody yet, so I don't want everybody to feel like we're harassing them, right?
Yeah.
But I think the most important thing is we ask you these questions, or I share this part of my story. This really isn't about me. I want you to connect to how you can think differently, right? And I'm just a big believer that if you're making poor food choices and you start making better food choices, you'll show up differently in your life. Why? Because you're proving to yourself that you actually have that mental toughness to make the right choices. We know if we're eating pancakes every day for breakfast, that's not healthy for us. Would I enjoy eating pancakes every day for breakfast? I love pancakes, right? Like pancakes, donuts on my cheat day, like I'm all over it. But I don't eat pancakes every day. I want to, but you choose not to. And you feel better when you eat the egg white omelet as opposed to the pancakes because you won the game of your mind. And how you would look and how you would feel about yourself if you always ate pancakes, nobody would want to get there. But we always look at it as one day, no big deal if I ate the pancakes. But you don't look at the compound effect. So I always ask people, grab your future and bring it to today, right? Go find that motivation. What do you want your goals to be? And then set realistic changes that you can make. Because if you start working out more, you start eating better, you become more present and focused with your family, you're gonna show up differently in your life. You will sit down with a client and they will experience you differently because you're actually following through and doing what you said you were gonna do.
That's great. You know, it makes me think to one of the sort of principles and coaching strategies you use in mentoring top performers, and it's purpose, process, reframe. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So we actually, and I'm so excited that you'll be on our show as well, but with as fast as I go, the speaking and the coaching work with teams, you know, a lot of people have said, do you have a podcast? Do you have all these things? So finally we're slowing down to create what's called the burn. And I believe that we all have a why, we all have a purpose, but what I'd never heard people talk about was like, what's the burn? Like what stokes that fire? Like I know your family history, and to me, like when I look into your eyes or when I heard you first tell me that, like that's the burn, right? That's below that purpose. So I think for us as leaders, or if we understand it, if we're coaching somebody, if I don't understand your heart, your purpose, that burn inside of you, how can I even coach you? How can I actually say, Manny, what would make you great, right? And you can tell me all about the process, but if we haven't started with purpose and that burn and what's gonna cause you to take action, the process is not gonna be what the process would be without the connection to purpose. So I believe it becomes a cycle of success, right? So I always ask people, what would happen if you connected to your purpose every day? Not occasionally, every 6 months, I kind of take a look, but like every day you intentionally said, I'm gonna connect to what drives me. Not the purpose of the company you work for, like you. And that burn, right? Once you connect to that, then everybody knows what they need to do on a daily basis. Right? So if you're selling widgets, you're selling financial services, if you're an athlete, you know what it looks like for you to be your best. That becomes the process, the daily disciplines, the standard. So once you connect to that purpose, it then goes to process. And then the key piece is the reframing piece, right?
Yeah, tell me about that.
To me, success is our ability to get back up one more time than we've been knocked down. And I watched my mom come to the dinner table with an IV stand when we had 24-hour nursing care in our house when I was a 7-year-old boy. My parents were divorced when I was 6 months old, never knew them together. It's like if my mom can literally say, I'm the leader of these two boys, purpose overtakes pain. I don't care if it takes one nurse or two nurses. I will make it to that dining room table. I will sit at the head of that dining room table and ask these boys how their day was at school. That to me is the ultimate of reframing. So if I face something negative, I can replace it with a positive solution. And that's what reframing is. It's when you face negative, it's changing your response to connect to a positive solution. And if that was my example, and everybody has their example, you can shift your perspective too. And that to me is the reframing piece, to where you recognize it's about getting up one more time than you've been knocked down. You've been through far worse than what you're saying is really bad right now. And a lot of times it's just reconnecting back to purpose. So like if you feel like you're knocked down, gosh, I can't, like you're not alone, right? Go find your mentors, go find your coaches, go find the leaders of your organization like a Manny. Manny, I need you for 5 minutes, man. This is really just, and then Manny's gonna come to you and say, hey, how you been doing connecting to your purpose? I haven't thought about it recently. Well, why are we even doing this? Why would you even want to take a positive step right now? Well, because here's what I'm working. And the moment they re-engage back to purpose, we're back in that cycle. And that's what takes the grit, perseverance, conviction over and over and over again. It's not for everybody, but if you're willing to go there, you'll achieve way more than you ever dreamed possible.
Yeah, I would say in our work together and as a mentee of yours, I would say that and the conversation around standard over feelings are probably the two most meaningful sort of exercises, discussions, collaborations that we've done consistently, not just around our business, but myself as a servant leader to our firm and team captain, and obviously in my personal life. So I'm super, super grateful for that. You know, I'm often really curious, and I think a lot of people are probably curious about some of the most successful people that you've been able to be around, and maybe one of the key nuggets or key pieces that you took away from that brief interaction or lengthy conversation. Can you tell me about one of those people? I know you've met hundreds of really successful people, but maybe tell me about one. And what was the key thing you took away from that person that you just did not expect?
So you spend time with Coach Saban at Alabama. And, you know, it's been an incredible opportunity where, similar to our relationship, like when we're together, I'm always pulling, like it's the same thing with Alabama. It's iron sharpens iron. But there are a couple things that I think apply to life. And a lot of people don't realize, whether you're an Alabama fan or not, Nick Saban was rated by Fortune magazine as the number 11 leader in the world. So like whether you like Alabama, if you don't even like sports, like these lessons apply to you. He's one of the greatest leaders to ever walk the face of the earth. And he always talks about the way you do one thing is the way you do everything. And if you're going to be sloppy in one area of your life, you're going to be sloppy in another, which really applies to, as silly as it sounds, they're like, why is this guy talking to us about food choices and working out? Because if you're sloppy in those areas, you're going to be sloppy somewhere else. So Coach Saban is always talking about the way you do one thing is the way you do everything. And he also says, which I love, we don't do things until we get them right. We do things until you can't get them wrong. How often do you share with a brand new advisor, like, here's a great piece of sales language, and they're like, oh man, that is awesome, like that's so good, and they say it once and they're like, I got it. And it's like, you got it, like you said it once, but you got to say it enough times. Like, I believe that I was a very successful advisor because I had great mentors, great coaches, and I practiced that language thousands of times, not once, not twice, thousands of times, to where it seemed just as natural coming out of my mouth as it did when I heard Manny say his language, because it was so perfect. And I just don't know if people are willing to get to that point. And that's one of the struggles as a coach, right? Like, I know you have it in you, but are you just wanting the quick solution, or are you actually willing to work on it to get it to the point where you just can't do it wrong anymore?
Yeah, you know, in having played sports for some time, and I know you have as well, and in really surrounding ourselves with a lot of people in sports today, I think we both agree those wins, the extra wins, the championships, they're won in those extra inches, those extra reps, the extra efforts, the things you do at dark, in the dark of night that nobody knows that you ever did to pursue kind of your commitments and your dreams.
And when you stay connected to your purpose, that's when that work occurs.
Yes.
It doesn't happen when I want to make sure that Manny's watching me right now, right? So like, if Manny's here, my phoning is going to be different, right? Like, right. I'm going to pull out that prospecting language and I'm going to read it like Manny sees it. No, it's what are you willing to do because you get connected. That's why I say grab your future and bring it to today. And I'll leave everybody with this. One of the greatest life lessons I've ever learned, because I could tell you about Saban or Coach Kleiman at Kansas State and all these great leaders, or John Qual. The greatest life lesson I ever learned, greatest leader I've ever been around, was my mom. And even though she passed November 2nd, 1986, she passed along her wisdom, her journal. And what the greatest life lesson I learned, it's not how long you live, it's how you choose to live your life. And even though we're laughing, we're cutting up, we're having a good time, I know for some people listening, it's hard. It's like, gosh, like I'm not making the decisions I want to make. Just take it one day at a time. Just choose to change your behavior just one day at a time. Don't try to say, if I want to lose 30 pounds, can I lose it in 2 days? No, you're not going to lose it in 2 days. It might take you 6 months. But if you win one day at a time and you work out more, you eat better, you do the things you're supposed to do, just take it one day at a time, it'll change your life. It all comes down to choices.
So that's it. You heard it here first. Connect to your purpose, execute the process, reframe when adversity hits, because it will hit, and win the micro wins one day at a time. Ben, it's been awesome, brother.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.